how are you? I hope that you are doing well. It is a bit of a dreary, rainy day today. It's one of those days where I'm really struggling to get motivated. I just really wanted to stay in the bed all day, but there's things to do and there's things that I really want to share with you. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a practicing witch and a high priestess. We do all types of things over here on the channel. If you're into paganism, occultism, folklore, or just keeping up with my weird,
icky, kicky, crazy, spooky life.
And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Nail cam. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but mostly it's going to be kind of a review video about The Witch's Sabbath, which is the most recent book that I've read. This is also by Kelden Mercury. They also wrote The Crooked Path, which is a phenomenal book. I highly recommend that you check that out. I also have a review video up on my channel on that video as well.
Oh my God, it's so hot in here.
Okay, that's better. I had to put my hair up. I have this ring light on me because it's really overcast today. And to be honest, most of the time I try to just use natural sunlight when I'm filming. I just think it looks better video-wise, but it's super overcast today, which I do love a nice overcast day. I do, but they're not necessarily ideal for filming, and I really wanted to put this out there and really talk about this book. Now, I do have a live stream on my channel where I had Kelden on and we talked all things Witch's Sabbath in regards to this book. So I recommend that you go check out that video as well, where you can hear from the author yourself and kind of see, you know, some points that were brought up about this book and where Kelden has kind of gotten their information. I really enjoyed The Crooked Path, and I'm really glad that I actually read The Crooked Path first, because I think that was a really nice kind of ease in of introduction to this book. Now, here locally in my area in Indianapolis, we host the Indy Witches Book Club, which I'll put somewhere down here. It's a Facebook group and anyone can join. If you live locally, you're welcome to meet up with us in person at the physical shop where we host the book club every other month. However, if you're not in person, you can also join our online book club. And this is something that is completely free, costs nothing. So if you want to interact with some more scholarly occultists or academic driven witches, then this might be the club for you. We nominate our book based on popular vote by the community. So 3 books get chosen, the community votes, and whichever book is the most popular is the book that is chosen for book club. You're welcome to participate in one book for the duration that it's chosen, or if a book gets chosen that isn't necessarily your favorite, you can always skip out on that and rejoin the next one if there's a book that's nominated that you do like. This was the book that our community chose. I really enjoyed this book, so let's talk about it. So on the back here, it says, discover the hidden depths of the Sabbath. Take flight for a mesmerizing exploration of an event long shrouded in fear and mystery, the Witch's Sabbath. Kelden presents an in-depth examination of the Sabbath's historical folkloric development, as well as its reemergence within the modern practice of witchcraft. From discussions on the folklore of flight and the events of nocturnal gatherings to enchanting rituals and recipes, you'll find everything you need to not only understand the nature of this legendary Sabbath, but also journey there yourself, offering impressive research and compelling stories from across Europe and early American colonies. This book is the ultimate resource for discovering an often misunderstood and overlooked aspect of witchcraft. Retails for about $16, $17, $18, somewhere in there. In my opinion, this is a pretty affordable witchy book. Sometimes grimoires, especially in ceremonial magic and that field, those books can get kind of pricey. So I think this, on a affordability scale, I would say it ranks very well as far as how affordable is this. As far as how accessible is this, you can buy this book on Amazon. You can also buy it directly from the author. Check out my live stream and Kelden kind of talks about where you can get this book at. Kind of related, but not related. We have bags now for book club, and we also have shirts. So I designed 3 different designs for the book club community to vote on. There were 3 different ones, but the one that won, of course, was the Scholarly Witch here. So it says 2022, and then it says the Indy Witches Book Club. I'm pretty sure this also comes on stickers, tank tops, t-shirts, bags. That's all available in my merch shop down below, which I just dropped a bunch of Pride merch. So if you're interested in scooping up
A little something gay for yourself or a loved one.
down in my description, you can check out my shop. I'm really excited to have a little bag because now I just feel so much more official when I have my book club book and my notebook all ready to go in my special book club bag. I can't explain the joy that that brings me. So this is my notebook that I use for book club. And like I told Keldon in the live stream, I took like 3 pages of notes on this book, and especially with chapter 1. Chapter 1 is delicious and delightful, and there's so much historical things in that chapter, from names and dates and important people who have influenced witchcraft and traditional witchcraft going back all the way up to modern times. And so I thought that was really cool that Keldon was able to kind of put all of that into words. Some of the stuff in there, like, of course, like Gerald Gardner, Robert Cochrane, blah, blah, blah. Like, these are kind of like well-known names, but there was some other really cool information in chapter 1 that I had no idea of. And I think one of the things about, I feel like, practicing witchcraft and identifying as witch is that you kind of have to choose that for yourself. And not only is it a noun, as it's who we are, right? But I also think that witch is a verb in the sense that it's not just who we are, it's also what we do. And to me, the 4 powers of the Magi, or the first pillar being to know, is something that I take very seriously. And I think part of that to know process is to know your craft, to know yourself, to know your own gnosis, and to be committed to learning. And so whether you're reading a tangible book, listening to an audiobook, or following, you know, bloggers or vloggers online, I think all of that is really important for this to know process. And I also think it's important for you to always be re-examining your practice and seeing kind of what's fitting and what's not. Because even just from month to month or year to year, I find that my practice has changed greatly. I've been on YouTube since 2016, and I'm fundamentally not the same witch that I was then as I am now. So some of the things just to touch on that I wrote notes about. Let's talk about that. So it's referenced here in the book that Sabbath, coming from the word sabbatum, first appeared in 1446. Thought that was interesting. I took note of that. Also, Roman pagans accusing Christians of cannibalism, infanticide, and incestuous orgies. Interestingly, when Rome became Christian, they accused the witches of the same thing. Thought that was interesting. I took note of that. The bill in 1233 in Vox Aroma, Pope Gregory condemned heresy and promoted crusades. Took note of that. Antonio Galsena, imprisoned, claimed nocturnal Waldensian rituals, drank excrement from a toad, worshiping a dragon, the devil. I took note of that. I think I took note of that because drinking the excrement of a toad, I remember there's this show on Netflix called Salem. And I think it's in the first season somewhere where the main character, I think it's Abigail, right? She shoves her familiar down the governor's throat, and that's just such an iconic scene. And then something that I've seen in a lot of like left-hand spaces, whether it be theistic Satanist or Luciferian sort of, I would say, pacts, if you will, is that oftentimes the dragon or the beast is kind of lumped together. And so it kind of made me think in terms of like the witch's devil, like how we can use some of this personification of the beast as well, or how we can use some of this personification of the great dragon. I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. I also really like the striges or the striges that are mentioned in the book. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but they're owl-like beings, Roman witches, poisoning and cannibalizing unwanted babies, which I felt like reading this and learning about the striges is what I'm gonna call them. And maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong and I apologize. And I'm sure one of you will correct me down in the comments. But I think especially in these times where Roe versus Wade here in the States is like looking at being overturned and there's all this mess about ownership of our own bodies, that I think, you know, these striges to me kind of, I don't know. I mean, they kind of almost feel like midwives in a way that have been demonized. And I feel like, you know, every Samhain we do this kind of invocation of like the mighty dead and the witches of the past. And I kind of want to explore more of that and see if there's more of a connection there. Because I think, you know, cannibalizing babies and poisoning unwanted babies, a lot of that just feels very much like Christian propaganda against women who are kind of taking charge of their own anatomy. And so we had a really nice conversation at book club in regards to some of the current things that are going on here in the States and that sort of narrative. Also, the night women, pagans of Diana, also reminded me of like Aradia, which some of the like most iconic folkloric, legendary sort of trad witch that I think of when I associate more with trad craft is the Gospel of Aradia, which if you have not read the Gospel of Aradia, in my opinion, it's very much, I would consider it to be an occult classic in my opinion. Like I feel like, you know, even if you don't necessarily consider yourself like Strega, right? Or even if you're not really on that path per se, I think that the story of Aradia is so incredibly iconic. And I especially think it's an important one to kind of bring up when you're communicating or having discourse with witches online or other people who are like, witchcraft isn't political and why are we making this all political? And, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, it is. And witchcraft has always been such this powerful tool of liberation for people. And I think the Gospel of Aradia is a really good example of why witchcraft is political. I also really liked kind of this ritual about leaving 3 knives on this altar to receive 3 blessings from the 3 sisters or the 3 fates. I really enjoy that as well. And, you know, something that I've kind of resonated with and connected with is looking at some of these mythological and folkloric archetypal influential people, is that I think we can look to them as like mighty dead, and I think that we can work with them in our practice. And kind of like in Jake Richards' book Backwoods Witchcraft, where he was talking about old Miss Wilson, who I think is actually supposed to be quite the scary old lady of the holler, if you will. And you know, she invokes the dead and has these crazed parties every full moon.
I would hang out with her.
And there's a woman who is also referenced, Madame Orient, I believe. And this is a very interesting, like, folkloric entity who I would love to get to know personally. She resurrected oxen and hosted rituals. And in the book, it talks about how she would basically, like, take these oxen and, like, her and her friends just like would eat them, and then she would bring them back to life and they would never work again. Like they would never be the same. So there's more to it there. I encourage you to go look into that, but that was a point of interest in this book for me, is just all these really lovely little snippets of like folkloric nuggets. Talking about the wild hunt, that's always been a huge point of interest for me and something that I continue to push myself to understand and kind of put into my own practice of how I associate with that. And so that's in this book as well. I think my favorite chapter in the book was honestly probably chapter 8, where Keldon talks more about, because a lot of this is like the astral Sabbath or witches flying to the Sabbath astrally, and I love reading about that. But something that I've been interested in, and that some of the witches from the Coven and book club, we've thought about hosting our own in-person Sabbath. To a degree, I think this book was really helpful of kind of navigating, okay, if we're going to host an in-person Sabbath, what does this look like? What is our mission here? What are we planning to do? Who is going to kind of take what roles? And I think that reading this book kind of helped solidify more of how we plan to host our Sabbath, which I'm really looking forward to. Overall, I think that it's really good that this was its own separate book, because if I remember correctly, I think Keldon was saying how initially this was kind of lumped in with The Crooked Path. And I think it's so good that these books were separated and really just having an entire book just to focus on the witch's Sabbath, because that is such a big topic. And we're looking at the tangible and the non-tangible. We're looking at witch trial records and folkloric examples of these witches. And I think that it really did deserve and needed its totally own book. So I think that was a really good judgment call. As far as how readable it is, I think that this book is very readable. Chapter 1 for me is a little dry, but like, I think Keldon did a really good job of making it digestible, because there's a lot of like just rich history in chapter 1. But I feel like as the chapters go and as you continue to read the book, I think it gets easier and easier and easier. And that's coming from someone who does struggle sometimes with reading comprehension. And there's no shame in that. And I think also listening to this as an audio version and then also reading the book is really, really good with reading comprehension stuff too, because to me, it helps really set it in more. And that's why I enjoy taking notes as well, because if I don't listen to it with the audio, and if I'm not taking notes, then sometimes my brain just scans over the information and I don't actually digest it and process it. So try that if you struggle with some of those same issues. All in all, I would give this book a 5 out of 5. I think it's a great read. I recommend that you check it out. If you've already read this book, let me know what you thought of this. And if you've already watched the live stream, what did you think of Keldon and I's live stream? I'm really excited to check out some more of Keldon's work. I believe that there's like a
Short story bookish maybe coming along.
so I'm really excited to check that out. Keldon, you did an amazing job with this book, and I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to read more of your work. Thank you all so much for watching and listening to me ramble on about books. And if you would like to see more book reviews, comment down below and we can definitely make that happen. It's hard to believe that we're already halfway through book club for the year. That's insane. I've really enjoyed being a part of book club, and it's really kind of helped motivate me and keep me on track to my studies. Having a group of people to help hold you accountable, I think, is so important, because I feel like sometimes when we're on our own, it can be easy to push things off until tomorrow or push things off until next week. When in reality, if you want something done, the best thing to do is just to do it in the now and to not push it off. And I think I feel better when I don't procrastinate as much, but it's a bad habit of mine. And so having these wonderful group of like-minded people to kind of keep me in check and hold me accountable, I think is really good for me and really important. Thank you all again so much for watching this video. I hope you all are doing well. I'm gonna go and enjoy some more of this dreary, dreary day, which is beautiful out. It just makes me feel very sleepy. And unfortunately, I cannot just sit down today and have a lay down. I've gotta go to the shop. I've got level 3 of the TTC to teach tonight. So we gotta wake up a little bit. I'm probably gonna have to stop and get a Starbucks on the way. All right, guys, take care. Blessed be.